I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
here's the idea, I don't want a relationship with you, just sell me a burger and go away.
Alexa, play the podcast Bad Voltage.
See, now, I wish you hadn't said that, because that's supposed to work, but it doesn't, because I haven't set it up on TuneIn yet.
Well, now you have 2 days to fix that.
No, that's actually a good point. I did actually try to set it up on Alexa, on TuneIn, which is what you need to do, but I couldn't get it to work, and I don't understand why. Anyway, hello, we are Bad Voltage.
Welcome, Season 2, Episode 11 to Bad Voltage. It's, you know, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about assistants.
We have
really.
we have rather given that one away, haven't we? I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that came out of WWDC which we're interested in, news, and Yahoo news. Goodness gracious me!
Yeah, everyone loves Yahoo News. Said no one ever.
Lots of people said it in 1997. That's important.
I like getting Yahoo News on my pager. So yeah, we're going to do one of these shows where we've not got a bunch of different segments. We're really only going to do the news and talk about assistants in detail because, you know, it was a long conversation. We don't want to bore you, but there's lots to get into, lots of juicy stuff. So without further ado,
And now, Bad Voltage.
shall we do some news?
There is lots of news.
All
There
right.
is.
There is lots of news. Well, we've been off for a while, so stuff has happened. In our
Go,
absence, so the world
Jonathan
doesn't
Bacon.
just stand still.
Speak the
All right.
news.
Shall I speak the news? All right, my piece of news is that Verizon has closed a acquisition of Yahoo, and I can't believe this. The price paid $4.5 billion for Yahoo. Marissa Mayer is resigning, and the question I have here is,
What's the other $4.45 billion for?
precisely, like, what? Why? I mean, I mean this with the greatest of respect in the world to Yahoo, or whatever they're changing their name to. I forget what it's called. But what is the value of that? What is the point of that? Like, why? I mean, I guess they probably have a giant user base of people who, you know, very casual internet users who probably got it in a toolbar in Internet Explorer or something
I
like
do believe
that.
they're still a
Last
top
time-
5 property, aren't they? I think Mail is still at number 1. The Finance is still, I think, 2.
Really?
Their Fantasy Sports is right up there in the top 3. I think Yahoo has more active users than most technical people realize.
I'm realizing how much of a bubble that I'm in because I had no idea about that stuff. I assumed it was
Really,
like,
white guy who lives in the valley is in bubble I think that's the real news item here.
who'd have thought about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things I'm not sure about is how much of that is active users. I mean, certainly Yahoo Mail has, in everything I've ever seen, they've got more users than everyone else. But how many? I mean, I've got like 3 Yahoo Mail accounts, right? So if they've got 800 million users or so, that doesn't necessarily mean they're all active.
Given the fact that you're recording this on a Commodore 64,
well, exactly.
it is not surprising to me that you have 3 active Yahoo accounts.
Given your recording problems earlier, I would have thought it was a Yahoo box.
That's
Yeah,
yeah. It's like a Chromebook except for ICQ.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Yahoo, they are still a big property, but they haven't got the name. No one thinks they're cool. So the only reason to buy them is so you can mine all of those users, right?
Well, yeah, and it says here, you know, they've got some 50 media brands and 1 billion people globally. It's going to be led by Tim
Don't forget they bought
Armstrong.
AOL, and AOL had acquired a bunch of brands as well. So they really pivoted from a technology company to a media company, and at a time when maybe that was a dangerous thing to do, obviously. But they, like I said, I think they do have more traffic and more users than maybe most technical people realize.
So,
in additional Yahoo hilariousness news, right?
Okay.
Do you remember Delicious?
Yes, yeah. Yeah,
right?
they shut down recently, right?
And you know about Pinboard, yeah? Bookmarking thing run by Maciej Siglowski?
No, I don't know about that.
Oh, okay. Maciej Siglowski runs a firm called Pinboard that does bookmarking, right? He's done it. It's a one-man show. He's done it for 10 years now. It makes about $250,000 a year for him, which is nice, and he publishes all this stuff. How many users he's got, all this kind of thing. They got a huge fillip in users when Yahoo bought Delicious and then shuttered it. And a bunch of people went to Pinboard at that point.
Right.
And then Yahoo picked it all back up again. And now, Delicious, which was, if you remember once, the darling of Silicon Valley, Siglowski has just bought it off of Yahoo for $35,000.
Wow.
It's like this was the big thing, and he's just carried on plugging away in the background. I mean, the bloke is occasionally a pain in the arse, but first of all, his heart's in the right place. Second, he's a very incisive commentator, and thirdly, he's actually dead funny at times. And the blog post he wrote about this, it was got something. At the end, it just says, "Do not compete with Pinboard," and it's just superb.
I would also like to reach out to the community and ask for some suggestions here. This could be a source of potential hilarity. So given the fact that apparently Verizon are combining the AOL assets in a subsidiary called Oath, and they claimed that this will be 50 media brands, I would love people to suggest the kind of small businesses that are going to be part of this acquisition, right? So I imagine, for example, one is going to be maybe a parallel port cables company. So you're picking up what I'm putting down. So people, let us know what kind of somewhat antiquated companies you think could be part of this, and we'll talk about that on the forum. All right.
Yeah, then you call it Yar A-hole or something. It's going to be... will be interesting. Right,
go ahead and post your thoughts to Tumblr with all your pictures coming from Flickr, and it would be fantastic.
Actually, send us a link to your GeoCities website where you list all of this. Oh, man. This is going to run and run. Right.
Yes.
Right, different news.
Yes.
I have Apple news since it was WWDC. And this is relevant to us, right? Apple have added podcast analytics. So a few things here. People have been clamouring for this for years. But you can do things like indicate whether a show's a trailer or it's a real show or whatever. But you get things like per-show download counts out of iTunes rather than having to extract them from your own web server logs and worry about caching and things like that. But for the important thing here is for people who are using the Apple app to listen to it, so they're using the Apple Podcasts app on their iPhone, you can also find out which bits they listened to and which bits they skipped. Right? So we can find out if they skip all the boring Jono bits. Yep. And people who are doing advertising, right, is going to be really interesting to see whether everyone just skips the adverts for Squarespace and Blue Apron and the mattress people, right? Or whether everyone actually listens to this sort of thing. So that's going to be real insight. One of the things that I'm interested in here is, that's there. Jono, you're our resident Mac user, so you can presumably get those statistics out of iTunes. But it would be interesting to see whether we could get other podcast apps, open source ones or whatever, and other podcast services, Gpodder and what have you, to do this same kind of statistics gathering, right? Gather which bits people listen to, which bits people skip, and then come up with some standardised format to report that back to the podcast owners or report it back to something like Gpodder to listen to, so we can still get all these interesting stats. I think that would be really cool.
What is interesting about... Well, first of all, I'm surprised that they haven't done this already. Yeah. But, it's easy to say that about all kinds of announcements. But I actually wonder as well whether this is one of those situations where too much information might be a problem. Because if these advertisers, if Squarespace, for example, sponsor 10 podcasts and they find that all of their ads are being skipped over, maybe they'll just think, well, we're not going to sponsor podcasts anymore, and then maybe podcasts start going away.
First of all, Squarespace don't sponsor 10 podcasts, they sponsor 10,000 100 million podcasts. But secondly, more importantly, and I was reading about this today, the people who are currently doing podcast advertising aren't doing it with the goal of generally increasing awareness of their brand. They're doing it so people hear about a thing and then you immediately make money off them. This is why you get the mattress people, right? So 1 million people listen to it and then one of them goes and buys a mattress for $129.99 and that pays for all of the advertising.
But what I'm saying is you have the same problem if people are skipping over it, whether it's awareness or whether it's people going to squarespace.com/Langridge and then, getting a 25% discount. If people are skipping that, then if enough people are skipping it, they're not going to advertise, right?
But they'd already know how many people are using the discount code.
It's the same. To be honest with you, this is the reason why I have an issue with ad block. It's like, this is how the internet is funded, okay? Let it happen this way.
I mean, as Jeremy says, they already know how many people are coming from that podcast. They don't need the analytics to see who's skipping the ads because they can already look at your podcast and go, okay, you have driven 25 customers who completed the purchasing funnel to our site last month. If they drove naught, then maybe they won't sponsor you from now on. They don't need this extra analytics.
That's fair. Well, yeah, that's the score. I don't know whether advertisers assess. Whether when they're assessing a podcast, whether they assess it based upon impressions or whether it's just sales. I imagine it's a mixture of both.
I don't think it is. I think it's sales. That's why the sorts of companies you get advertising on podcasts are ones where they can find out where something came from and instantly convert a customer into money. They're not looking to build some kind of long-term ongoing relationship. They want to buy a mattress and then bugger off.
Podcasts change to more mainstream and you're getting podcasts with millions of listeners, though, like Serial and some of the other ones, they will switch to more brand awareness because that's just how the advertising industry tends to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that entirely, and there's a whole longer discussion to be had about that, possibly in the next show.
There is. That was extra smooth segue, sir.
I'm genuinely impressed with myself for that. Right, next piece of news.
All right, Jeremy.
Let's continue right on with the Apple news then, since as you said, it was WWDC, so there is a bunch of it, and Apple has finally confirmed what may very well have been the worst kept secret in the Valley, and that's they are working on self-driving car technology. And the quote from Tim Cook was, "We're focusing on autonomous systems. Clearly one purpose of autonomous systems is self-driving cars, but there are others." Now, we talked about self-driving cars about 2 years ago, so I'm not interested to hear what you guys explicitly think of self-driving cars because we already know that. I'm interested to hear what you both think of the progress self-driving cars have made since that show about 2 years ago and where that compares to where you thought they'd be now.
I have a very simple answer to that. Still don't have a self-driving car. Not impressed.
As far as I'm aware, they have made no progress, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Tesla rolled out version 2 with the autopilot software, and some other companies are making some amount of headway.
Now, I should be clear about this. A car which knows how to drive anywhere within 200 yards of its own factory in Silicon Valley is not interesting. If it can drive the streets of San Francisco and nowhere else, it is not interesting.
I disagree. I think the rest of the world really is uninteresting compared to this area. So I think
if what you want is a thing which can only go down streets in San Francisco on particular pre-programmed tracks, then you already have trams for that. You don't need self-driving cars.
What he wants to do really is do an infinite loop around the Google campus, which is very meta.
Oh, that would be great. You go, here's our car, we'll call it the infinite loop, and watch the Cupertino people go, what? No, you can't do that. That'd be...
Well,
go ahead.
The one thing that does worry me quite significantly about the notion of an Apple car is, as we all know, one of the primary defects of the iPhone is the fact that it doesn't have a back button. So does this mean that this car is only going to be able to go right?
No reverse for you.
Right.
No,
I don't know. I mean,
I had kind of a related story too as well. Just while we were talking about Apple, it's the tech industry is getting pretty hammered right now. From June 9th to June 12th, Apple itself lost a little bit over 6%, which sounds like a lot until you realize that what their market cap is, and you realize that's over $50 billion in market cap. Amazon's way down, Google's way down. A bunch of I think all of the top 5 are down, and like 8 of the top 10 or something tech companies are down. So do you think that this is a bubble bursting or event, or just a little bit of a correction, or?
It feels to me corrective. Tech as a thing is overvalued anyway.
Right. certainly overbought, in my opinion.
Yeah. So,
I don't know.
So having that trend downwards can't hurt. I mean, I don't want to be all, Luddite. Oh, you should be doing real manufacturing or whatever. There is value in intellectual property and so on, but the current pricings are ridiculous.
I don't know. I'm actually just starting to get interested in investing, and I'm starting to pay attention to some of this stuff. I don't have enough information yet. The one thing I would say, going back to the cars piece, is someone, I can't remember who it was, said to me a couple of months ago that companies like Tesla and Apple, if they're doing the cars, are going to struggle to succeed because they're able to build interesting technology, but in terms of scaling it up to the size like an auto company, they just don't have that expertise. And I'm curious to see if that's going to be the case, whether, like Teslas have built some really cool products that, frankly, rich people are buying, right? But in terms of scaling that up to a mass market where, people in North Dakota are going to be buying these things, not just in the San Francisco area, requires a huge leap, right? In terms of manufacturing and production and support and aftercare and all that kind of stuff. I wonder how these companies are going to succeed. It strikes me that there's no doubt that we're going to be going in the direction of self-driving cars, but can Apple succeed at that? They're obviously going to be partnering with GM or whoever it's going to be. But
well, first of all, I mean, I don't necessarily see Tesla being able to scale up or not as being a problem, because I think Musk would say his goal wasn't to make everyone in the world drive a Tesla. It was to usher in the dawn of electric cars, which he's essentially done, Tesla don't need to make a mass market car for everything, because Nissan are doing it.
I think the measuring stick for them is the Model 3, right? That is the mass market car they're trying to make.
Yeah, so but
whether they're able to do the Model 3 will answer that question pretty definitively.
To my mind, if that doesn't work,
Elon Musk. Okay, go on.
To my mind, if that doesn't work, if the Model 3 doesn't take off, they never manage to get into the mass market because they just can't scale up. It doesn't matter, because every major manufacturer now has electric cars. What Tesla managed to do was change the zeitgeist, change the perception of them from being something stupid to something great, in the same way that the Prius did about hybrids, right? It changed the story in people's minds.
I agree with you, but I don't believe for a second that someone like Elon Musk, who is a tech entrepreneur, I don't believe for a second he wants to stop that. I don't think that's enough. I think this is one of the and this is another discussion for a show, which is I think when people like that taste a certain amount of success, they then want widespread success, in the same way that Mark Shuttleworth was successful in shaking up the Linux world with Ubuntu, and what he wanted ultimately was not just that, it was widespread use of Ubuntu, like widespread commercial success for Ubuntu. I think Elon Musk, there is no doubt in my mind that he wants everybody driving Teslas.
I think what he wants is everyone to live on Mars. And if people drive Teslas while they're there, no problem. His big thing is SpaceX.
I actually think he cares.
Plus his new insane brain hacking thing, which I haven't put in the news because it's too insane. But yeah.
So, as ever, we'd love to know your thoughts on this. What do you think? Do you think, any of this stuff that we've talked about? Just go and whack it in the forum. It's as easy as that.
And if you skip this bit, we'll know. Recently, I got an Amazon Echo Dot because I got a £50 Amazon voucher, and so I asked the Brains Trust what I should do with my £50 Amazon voucher, and both Bill and Popey said, get an Amazon Echo Dot, they're really cool. So I got an Amazon Echo Dot, right? I have been sceptical about this sort of thing in the past, the idea of putting a microphone in your house, etc., etc. But
convenience.
But convenience, exactly. I thought it'd be interesting to experiment with this thing. If it turns out to be rubbish, then no problem. It'll give me a useful counterexample to my Mycroft, assuming it ever arrives, as to what, a good example of what this is before the Mycroft arrives.
Mine apparently is on its way, by the way. So really? I should have a Mycroft by the next show.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Why isn't mine on its way?
I did some. Well, I advised them, so they hooked me up.
Oh, I see.
First
All I
piece
did
of advice:
was,
ship my Mycroft first.
Yes, first piece of advice. Yeah, exactly.
Second piece of advice:
Anyway,
don't charge everyone an extra $26 like they did with me. Anyway, right? Separate thing. So I got this, and I've been playing with it, writing skills, getting a sense of what it's like, so on and so forth. Completely separately to this, you chaps have both received a Google Home, yes?
Yes,
and we've all got experience of using both Siri and OK Google on on people's phones.
I've got headphones on, asshole.
I was expecting a response to that, to be fair.
And my phone is switched off. Yeah, you might, people who are listening to this, by the way, you might want to switch your phone off.
Yeah.
Because we're going to trigger it a lot.
We are. So, yes. So there are a whole bunch of these different assistants going on, whether they're built into phones or whether they're built into devices that live in your house and so on and so forth. And I wondered what we thought about them.
You wondered what? You just cut out for a second.
You did, in fact, completely cut out.
I wasn't sure that was just me. I just wondered.
I just wondered what we thought of them.
Right. Well, I would like to share my thoughts on the Google Home and the Assistant. I've not used the Amazon Echo other than playing with it a little bit at our neighbor's house. I have a few thoughts. I'm going to be quick on this. First of all, I think that we'd had some conversations on previous shows about these assistants and whether they're actually helpful. I know you guys had said that you very rarely use them on your phones. I use mine all the time. I definitely think that this is an area that's going to become increasingly important to people. I personally think, and I'm curious to see what Jeremy's thoughts are on this. I mean, the Google Home is basically Google Assistant, right? It's it in speaker form. And I think they've done a really, really nice job with it. It surprises me how expansive it is. Like, even just yesterday, I was saying, okay, Google, show me what a piano sounds like. And Jack and I were just kind of going through all these different instruments. It understands Jack, his babbling 4.5-year-old English, right? It understands him well. I get up in the morning when I'm making coffee and I say, read me the news, and it reads me the headlines. I think it's a really good thing. I think it works really well. The other thing about the Google Home that surprised me is it can hear me when I'm pretty much about upstairs. Like, it's the level of sensitivity on that mic. I'm curious to see what it's like with the Echo and the Dot, but it can hear me really far away. Like, I don't have to be stood right near it and yelling. It's I think a really, really well executed product, and it works really well. And we actually use it quite a lot. Jack loves it. Jack just interrogates it with questions. But overall, I've been pretty impressed with it. What do you think, Jeremy? How have you found the Home?
It's my understanding that the mic in the Echo is actually better than the one in the Home. Like, the radio mic, a lot of engineering actually went into the mic system in the Echo.
Oh, wow, really? Wow. Well, the Google Home's good enough, but I can only imagine how good the other one is. So.
I'm of two minds on these. It's the privacy implications of having an always-on microphone in your house are a little bit too much for me. That said, as a technologist, curiosity got me the better, and I do have an Echo, and I got the Home, as you mentioned. They're in a room that I'm not typically in and are usually unplugged, to be completely honest. But in having played around with the Echo for quite a long time, I mean, I got it a while ago in the Home more recently. I still, I guess, don't regularly see a use case that I think is super compelling. Like, Alexa, turn the lights on is cool and works very reliably because I have, lights that it works with. Aside from like setting timers, and I could see maybe if you had the newer one with the screen in the kitchen or something, you could say, Amazon, show me a recipe, and it could pull it up and show you stuff. For the average person, I don't know that the use cases are there yet. The one thing I will say I've been really, really impressed with Amazon, and I think Google's kind of following suit here, is they have iterated on the project in a really, really impressive way. So the amount of new features and the improvements that they've made incrementally are how hot product design, in my mind, should work. So I will give them kudos there.
That's fair.
I could see these someday being built into your home, and that concerns me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the one thing I find interesting is how people use these things. Like, so for example, with us, it's primarily just play me some music. Like if I'm washing up or, just hanging out downstairs, we'll put some music. Like this morning, I was getting breakfast ready for Jack and we listened to AC/DC. Or, like I say, when I'm making coffee, it reads me the headlines. I love that. I feel like there's something so satisfying about going downstairs and saying, okay, Google, read me the headlines. And then I'm just listening to, 3 minutes of NPR before, while I'm getting stuff ready. But I don't think, to your point, Jeremy, I don't think I use it all that extensively. The thing I find helpful on my phone is I'll often use it to dictate messages. So, for example, text messages. And I'll also use it to say, show me walking directions to somewhere in San Francisco, or what is the driving time to blah, blah, blah. I just find I hate typing on phones. I think that's part of the reason.
I actually have Assistant disabled on my phone.
Oh, really?
Some of the stuff you have to enable it, it's not happening. What, do you still have the OnePlus Act?
I do.
So that doesn't have the Assistant.
Correct. And if it had it, I probably wouldn't have it turned on because I don't use it very much. Not on the phone.
Well, you're definitely not going to use it if you switch it off.
Well, yeah, but no.
Why do you switch it on and try it?
The point is that I don't use it, and therefore I would turn it off if I had it. I've had it's got some OK Google support, and I've used it in the past, but I just don't find it compelling. I find myself not using it very much, and therefore I'd rather turn it off.
Huh, interesting.
If for no other reason, I mean, completely ignoring the whole privacy implication stuff, it just means that when someone says, OK, Google, whatever on the television, my phone doesn't go beep like yours does, right?
Well, they've actually solved that problem, but...
Yeah.
Not, enormously.
What's that?
I don't think they have. They haven't solved it on Jono's phone. Jono, turn the assistant on, and we'll see if they've solved it.
To be fair, I've switched off. I've got a temporary phone right now because my Pixel is not alive,
which in itself is hilarious.
Yeah, so
I would agree with that.
My Pixel is currently dead. It's currently been returned. So, but you can switch it off. And the thing is, as well, is the one thing I was impressed with Google Home. I don't know if the Amazon devices do this, but you can actually teach it different voices as well. So, like, if I say, what's my schedule for today, and Erica says, what's my schedule for today, it'll read our respective Google calendars, for example. Right,
and that's coming. If it hasn't already came to Amazon, it is. So it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's on the way, but I have very, very carefully not hooked up my my Echo Dot to anything personal to me because I don't want someone to be able to walk into my living room and say, read me my email. Right? But you've got my daughter has friends round, I have people come round. I don't want to be worried when I'm in the loo that they're reading my email. Right, if I'm going out of the room and the computer's there, I'll generally lock the screen, and it's roughly the same reason. So I haven't hooked up to any of that stuff, and therefore I haven't looked into whether it does the voice recognition stuff. Certainly, people have been talking about it. It wouldn't surprise me if that's something where Google's ahead of Amazon. But equally, as Jeremy says, if it's not there already, I'm pretty sure it's coming.
It almost seems that what would be quite cool is that you could buy one of these devices, and it has a fingerprint reader on the top. Because if I could just go, if I'm in the kitchen, I can just tap it, and then it authenticates as me, and I can say, okay, tell me this, tell me that, tell me the other. Particularly for certain things, like if I think if you had the, well, I think if you were to be able to, for things such as email or calendars or whatever else, if you feel uncomfortable, if someone was to feel uncomfortable that it might confuse someone's voice, I mean, the voice. It should be tied to your voice, but sometimes people have similar voices, and I don't know how secure that is, right? But if you could basically just go in and tap it, to me, the value is not the fact that you never actually touched the speaker. It's the fact that you can basically conjure up all kinds of information and context by just speaking to it.
I think a large part of the value is you never touch the speaker. I mean, yes, fine, I'm worried about the fact that Rory Bremner can come in and read my email, even if I don't want him to. Right. Name an American impressionist.
Jim, what's his name? The guy with the puppets. I don't know.
Okay.
That's the shit and weird. We don't need to talk about that.
I would be curious if an impressionist could do an impression well enough to fool it. I would suspect not.
That would actually be very interesting. But equally, I think if something is unable to detect someone doing an impression of your voice as being you. It's discreet enough to avoid that. Then it's also not going to work if you're eating a sandwich or stood away or you've got a cold or something like that. But all that
it does work.
All that aside, right, I'm not actually worried about that because I haven't hooked any of that stuff up. The things that I use it for, having now had it for a few weeks, is, yes, setting timers when I'm cooking, which is immensely useful.
It is.
Alexa, add pies to my shopping list, which I do about 14 times a day and is incredibly useful. Playing music, I would probably use it more for if I had the Echo. As it is, I've got the Echo Dot, which is the little baby brother, and the thing they skimped on in order to make it half the price is the speaker. Which means that it's basically a little tinny speaker like the ones you get to plug into mobile phones.
But it has an aux
right?
out, so you can hook it up to a stereo, is the difference.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. I mean, I could plug it into a real speaker and so on, I haven't done so. And it's got Bluetooth and all that kind of thing, so that's not a problem. But yeah, I've used it for those. I have used it for playing music. It's great if you've got people round and you want to select the music, because people can just go, Alexa, now, And that's really handy if you've got the family round or friends or whatever. That's really cool.
Right.
All this, everyone gets out their iPhone, and then people running iTunes can do iTunes jukebox, which they've now killed. Or you could all. Why don't you all go to this URL, right? Or what? Just Whereas Alexa just solves that problem entirely, which is really nice. I've been.
So have you written any skills for yours? Have you ported Riddling or written skills?
I have written skills. They're not public skills yet, but I'm working on that. Unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time recently, but that is something that I'm actually working on something good, because I think this is a really exciting new platform, and most things aren't. People aren't making best use of it yet. This is like when a new console comes out and people haven't really grasped how all the graphics work, right? And then over time it evolves, so you get things that are better and better and better. At the moment, things like games on Alexa, for example, the scores are all stupid, right? So you get trivia games, but it's all, first of all, they're all multiple choice, and secondly, it's all answer A, blah, answer B, and then you've got to go A or C or whatever. It doesn't feel natural at all. It feels really clunky.
The Jeopardy one isn't terrible. That's the only one I've played.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting better. You've got things like the Magic Door, which is like the second most popular skill, and it's the most appallingly written fantasy adventure. But it's basically like some kind of choose-your-own-adventure book where you get a few linear choices and that's it. It could be so much better than this. Oh, my God.
So then moving on from that, what do you think is the killer? What's the killer app here? What makes this go to the next level that it actually is everywhere? Or is there one?
I'm not sure yet because I'm still thinking about it.
I think it's querying the internet.
There are some technological issues in the way of doing that sort of thing.
Querying the internet?
Yeah, I don't think people are going to, as a general rule, play games on this. I think the killer app here is, it's a way of basically conjuring up information easily with your voice. I think it's people saying,
Alexa, who is the ninth king of England,
people saying,
or whatever.
So you think all the engineering work that's went out of this, and the end result is going to be I can ask who the Queen of England is instead of typing it into my phone? That would be a monumental failure.
I
disagree. I think it's going to be a few different things. I think it's going to be, when I say query the internet, I mean digitally connected information. I think it's going to be, what's my schedule today? Tell me the news. Yes, it's going to be things like, who's the Queen of England, or who's the lead singer of Iron Maiden. But it's also going to be, what is the driving time to San Francisco? It's going to be, book me a reservation at blah, blah, blah tonight. Or what tables are available at a Thai restaurant in Soma tonight?
Alexa already does that.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I think the killer app here is going to be how broad the provision of services are for it, which is the reason why I personally am betting more on the Google side of things, because they own the world. I actually think that I don't think this is necessarily going to be two Jetsons. I think it's just going to be a speaker that allows you to conjure up that information quickly and easily. Yes, people will do games, and yes, you can.
I think that is the ask people what they want, and they will tell you a faster horse answer to this question.
I would agree with that. I mean, the thing which I found really interesting, the thing which changed my mind about this, is twofold, actually. The first one is that children seem to intuitively grasp this. Jono talking about Jack, talking to friends of mine and their kids and so on. They just grasp the idea of asking for a thing and getting it. And in a way that when, you talk about how I gave my 2-year-old my iPad and they understood it in a way they didn't understand my laptop, and you think, well, yeah, okay, but not wholly. And this is, I think, the next step in that, which I think is fascinating. But the second thing is it was playing some music, right? And now what happened? Either my phone rang or something like that, and I just turned it and snapped at it, Alexa, shut up, without even thinking about it. And then afterwards I thought, oh my God, I just talked to you like a person. I didn't think, what is the command? I mean, and I hadn't looked up that shut up works as the stop command. Or whatever. I just said to it, I just interacted with the way that I intuitively would, and it just worked. And I was like, wow, that's really good.
They've definitely improved in that regard, because when the product first came out, it definitely felt like you were learning Alexa, not Alexa was speaking English.
Absolutely.
And now it's more Alexa is speaking English.
And external skills still have that problem. In order to... If you ship a third-party skill to Alexa, at least, I don't know what it's like for Google Home, but you still have to get into it using a certain set of words. So if you want to play the Magic Door, for example, which is this crappy choose your own adventure game, basically. It's still going to be very much an Alexa, open the magic door, or Alexa, play the magic door, or whatever, to get into it. And there's this, you've got to have this mental model of, I have now started up this program and now I'm interacting with it rather than Alexa. And that has to get smoothed out or it's never going to go anywhere. So there's very little third-party skill adoption at the moment because you can't have your skill insert itself into someone's interaction. They've got to go, I will go and use your skill now. So you end up having to push your thing like it's an app on a phone, right? That people have to manually go and install your thing. And you're like, that's not really what you want. What I want is, tell me about this thing, and then something pops up and gets it.
That's where when I was saying earlier on about like querying information, that's where I think that this thing is going to be. I think this is where these things are going to become more and more powerful. I think one element will be speaking to it in a human way. Like when I was talking, I said like, ask me some questions, and ask me a question. It says, would you like another one? And I was like, all right. And it responded as it should do. Right. But then I also suspect that the second piece here will be, for all intents and purposes, like virtual assistants. That's where I think that, like, what was that thing? Is it called Clara? It's like a virtual assistant. It's like it's basically it's a bot that reads your, like, if you when you have an assistant and you might forward an email and say, okay, Clara will find the time in our calendar. What it does is it basically, it's a bot that will respond to the other person. The other person may say, oh, can you do 2:30 on Friday? And this thing will kind of respond backwards and forwards. And the idea is that it, for all intents and purposes, replaces a human. And I've heard that from some people that it actually works fairly well. I suspect that these Google Assistant, I think it's called Assistant for a reason. The fact that I think right now it's querying the internet, but I think it will increasingly be doing things that will save you time. It will be book me a meeting at this, or it will be...
there was some kind of app or other, and it started off as an SMS thing, and then there was an app where you could just text it, book me a hotel room for this, and then it was being handled by people at the far end, but you had no idea, right?
Yeah.
Right. Magic? Was it called Magic? I think it was called Magic. But that kind of thing, automating that, I think would be nice. But to be honest with you, that's not particularly a function of Alexa. That's basically a back end which you then plug a voice control thing into, or you plug a Telegram bot into, or you plug a Facebook Messenger bot into. That's a chat UI. Whether you're interacting with that chat UI via speech or via text that you typed into something is essentially irrelevant at that point. That's just back end AI.
Yeah. No.
What I think the reason I think that the thing I think is different about voice controlled assistants is that they are the only thing you can use while you're doing something else. In the same way that podcasts are better than television, because you can listen to a podcast while you're walking, or while you're working, or while you're doing press ups, or whatever. Whereas you can't watch telly because you can't. it can be a part of your attention and not all of it. And Alexa's the same way. That you can, while you're emptying the dishwasher, tell it to do things. You don't have to stop what you're doing and get your phone out of your pocket and press a button and then put your phone back in your pocket again and carry on with the job. It can be it can be something which is partial, which means that I don't know if there's necessarily a killer app, because that implies here's the thing that you do with this, and it's not. It's kind of 10% of your effort all the time, not 100% in bits.
That's effectively, you said it better than I did. That's effectively what I meant earlier on. Is I just think it's going to be it's just going to kind of like sit into your lives. It's going to be an easier interface to doing other shit, and to your point, Act, like things while you're like if I'm stood there making coffee. And I've got something on my mind, like, oh, I need to respond to this particular person, or I need to book a meeting, or I need to call the doctor, or whatever it might be. Then I can do that by just talking to it. And that's that's really satisfying. But if I'm sat in front of a computer and I have a list of shit to do, I think there's more like mental stress in having to type and do stuff like that, because you've got a million other things you got to do that require typing and other stuff. But
yeah, I interrupted you.
The other thing I think interesting with these is I think Amazon and Apple have kind of taken one tact, and it's that their product has a personality, right? Alexa tells jokes and Siri tells jokes, and they want you to see Siri as your human assistant, where Google's very much taken this is a computerized product approach, and it doesn't have as much personality, very much by design.
Yeah, there's a little bit, but you've got to kind of trigger it.
I'm curious to see which model will work out. Do people want this to be human-like, or do they very much not, and do they want it to be more of a virtual assistant?
There is, I have two thoughts on that. The first one, which is a small thought but annoying, is that it annoys me a bit when people keep inventing assistants and they're all female. It's like, feels a bit off. But secondly, more importantly, I think, there's the problem. I did a talk about this whole thing. The problem with presenting yourself as a human, presenting your bot interface as a person, is that there's an expectation mismatch. That you think, I'll just talk to it like a person, and then that doesn't work because it's basically impossible to do. And so you keep falling over. It's the uncanny valley. But instead of for graphics, it's for speech or for conversation. Whereas if you present yourself as this is a robot, then you kind of speak to it robotically. And you think of it as I must to some extent learn computerese rather than it learns to talk to me. And then so that's a more annoying interaction, but you're more likely to be successful at it.
But with the other personality, I imagine as Jack keeps using the product, especially if it was more human, like he would consider that almost part of the family, because he always asks the questions and it always responds. So
I don't want that. In fact, I would go, not just because it's creepy and weird, but also like it's not a human, and I don't want to have a human relationship with it. But also, this is more of a broader bias that I have. I'm going to show you guys this on the camera, but obviously our listeners can't see this. I got some business cards printed from Moo cards, and they do a really nice job. But one of the things that agitates me about Moo cards and lots of other companies is how they write these annoying, pithy little human messages on things.
Like the innocent smoothie people.
Yeah, like this box, right? It's got this whole thing, and it says, my goodness, you're gorgeous. And then it says in brackets, we're talking to the cards, but okay, you are too. Fuck off. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, it's like, here's the idea. I don't want a relationship with you. Just sell me a burger and go away.
Right. I don't need my business card box to try and be funny with me, right? I'm not taking out on a date, okay? Go away. Stop being annoying.
I find it annoying that they're just overly chirpy about this kind of thing.
Got it.
But I don't necessarily. I quite like it in an assistant, an electronic assistant, because I think it wouldn't have occurred to me to say Alexa, shut up, to a thing where I hadn't got an inkling of that kind of actual relationship. You understand what I'm speaking. I'd have said something like Alexa, stop speaking or whatever, because I'd have thought of it as a bash prompt with a speaker on top of it, rather than, something attempting to be human. And I understand the reservations behind that idea, but I think on balance, it's the better thing to do. If for no other reason, you want it to be part of people's lives, right? I don't want people to think that they're carrying around a Texas Instruments calculator the whole time.
No, that's it. I think, but I think it's a combination of the two, right? You want it to understand normal human words. You don't want it to be like Vim, right? Trying to get out of Vim. Okay, it's got to
Alexa,
understand
:W, Q.
It's got to understand normal human language, but I think when it tries to be funny, it's gonna potentially miss the mark, right? Because but I think overall this stuff is really cool. I have one final question for you guys. I know we're running long on this. Given the privacy concerns and the idea that there is a mic that's always on, and that worries me too. I find it somewhat unsettling that this thing is always listening. And particularly, if there is a big security like a security breach or something along those lines. What if you had a device like this, which wasn't on all the time, but in hardware it wasn't designed to be on all the time, but what happened is you pressed a button to switch it on. So you don't have the convenience of sitting in the chair, you have to go up to it and press it, but you do have the convenience of it understanding. Or you could switch it on for, I only want it to be on for the next, I press it once and it just stays on until, I press it again or automatically switches off after 3 minutes
I
or
have
something
multiple
like that.
comments there. First, I would like to remind you that you also have a probably much more dangerous always-on microphone in your pocket that you carry with you everywhere you go. So keep that in mind as you go through this mental exercise. B, both devices have that in that they have a button that turns the mic off if you wanted to use it already. I don't think...
They do?
Both of them do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I don't think enough people will use it to build it to be the default the other way around.
Yeah, here is the key point about that, right? If I have to walk over and touch the top of the thing in order to make it listen, it's about as much use as a fucking marshmallow surfboard, right? Don't want it.
Disagree. I disagree. Like the value is not just the fact that it switches on when you start speaking to it. The major value of these devices is the fact that it understands your words and does things for you.
Yeah.
The fact that it switches on automatically really isn't a major value.
On gets rid of Ack's entire point about being able to do it while he's unloading the dishwasher.
Yeah, that's exactly. But like you said, when you're making coffee, you think of the fact that you need a meeting. If I think when I'm making coffee, I need to walk over to the other side of the room, press the button, and then say to it, "Alexa, put this on the meeting." Right. I might as well just type it in my damn phone. I've got to stop what I'm doing.
But to be clear, I'm not talking about this being switched on by default. I'm talking about people who are concerned about privacy. Right? There are going to be some people who don't want to use this thing. You guys have said this because there's a mic that's always on all the time. I'm saying, would this be a usable workaround for people who are concerned about privacy?
First of all, as Jeremy says, you can already do it. Secondly, I was convinced by this argument, but a lot of people won't be, I think, which is that it actually recognises the wake word on the device itself. Now, you only have their word for that. I freely admit that you only have their word for it. Doesn't ship everything you say around it to the cloud all the time. It waits for the wake word and then ships off after that. Now, you can't prove that they're not doing that. You can't, and
you can't prove that they won't be breached in a way that hides that even without them intentionally doing so.
If there is some kind of security breach in the controlling server, someone could push new firmware to it, which does precisely that. And a phone is exactly the same way. But I'm reasonably okay with the idea that it recognises the wake word on the device. This is why Alexa can only have one of three. You can be Alexa, or you can be computer, or you can be Amazon, and that's it. You can't pick an arbitrary wake word, which I thought was a bit annoying because I wanted to call it Quentin. But
Quentin?
A long time ago, before all of this assistant stuff happened, I wrote something which would take commands and do them when I spoke to it. I could just never get the speech recognition to work right, and it was called Quentin.
I also wrote a program in BASIC that I wanted to be include speech recognition, but I didn't have a microphone attached to the computer.
Hey, it did actually do speech recognition, you cheeky git. But yeah,
was this on your Archimedes?
It was not on my Archimedes. I'll tell you how long ago it was.
Posh kid.
It took a whole bunch of effort and time to make sure that the microphone actually picked up sound in a way that my programs could do. I had to configure the microphone with ALSA. Right? So it was a while back.
Good Lord.
Exactly.
Good grief, and made you got anything done.
But yeah, I mean, fine. If someone wants the thing and they're prepared to go over and touch the button on it, then okay. But to me, that completely defeats the point of it. Every single thing about it that I think is useful and valuable is because I can do it while I'm doing something else. If I've got to go and press a button, it's just not worth the effort, I think.
Yeah. Well, there we have it. It's been a long segment, hasn't it?
Yes, it
Goodness.
has.
goodness, hasn't it just? But this is really interesting. I mean, I honestly think these things could be these could be a platform on a par with smartphones.
Yeah.
Right? This is a huge deal, potentially. It might not be. They might turn out to be Google Glass, but I don't think they're going to be. I think this is going to be a big thing.
No,
they've already surpassed that, I think.
Well, it's not hard, is it?
Well, it's also you're not a complete and total bellend if you're using one of these things as well. So, there was the term glasshole for a reason.
Yeah, that's harsh, that. But yes.
But I think it's really cool. I'd love to hear what people think about it. It's nice having a conversation with this where it's not just about... I mean, the privacy thing is important, but I think sometimes it's more... yes, we should recognize that, but it's interesting to just talk about the functionality and whether it's actually going to be useful outside of the privacy.
The other thing is, despite their mind-blowing incompetence at actually shipping me a device that I've paid for, it is nice that the Mycroft people are out there doing this on the grounds that instead of saying, oh, here's a great new thing, but we can't compete in that because there's just no free alternative, to saying not only is there a potential device out there, but it's on the way to all of us, and we get a chance to play with this kind of thing. So if it turns out that Alexa and Google Home and the upcoming Siri at home device turn out to be great and Mycroft turns out to be rubbish, it's because we didn't try hard enough, not because we got locked out of the market.
Yeah. And some of it is just having data. Like, just you the device is one thing, but it's really the services and access to the services, which is the main thing, whether it actually works. But yeah, we will see. Hopefully we may have a review for the next episode, because I got an email while we were recording this actually confirming that my Mycroft is going out in the mail today. So hopefully I'll be able to do a review, or we'll wait until you guys get yours and see what happens. Brown chicken, brown cow. We have a show.
We do.
I don't know.
We
I don't know
almost
why
have
I said
a
brown
show.
chicken, brown cow.
We always have a show.
Yeah, well, we still have some few things to masticate over.
Yeah.
All right, so what should we talk about?
Well, the first thing we should talk about is we have a competition.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We do. But first of all, Jono, please tell us about the prize we have for this competition.
Okay, so we're going to be giving away an Endless Mission 1. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Endless is a pretty cool startup that's based in San Francisco that are basically making an operating system that's it's a Linux-based operating system. It's built on top of Linux and GNOME and Flatpak and all that kind of good stuff. And it's basically designed for bringing essentially the internet and technology to developing nations and not just that, but also parts of the US as well. And they're doing really cool stuff. They've hired a bunch of really neat people there. Jonathan Blanford, who used to run the desktop team at Fedora at Red Hat's there. Michael Hall, who used to be on my team at Canonical, has just joined. Bunch of people from Canonical, various other companies. So they're doing some really neat stuff, and they've given us a mission 1, which is basically a really cool looking. It's almost like a Mac Mini, but it's for Endless. It's like a little device. You plug it into plug a keyboard and a mouse and a screen into it, and it comes shipped with the Endless OS, all completely open source. So that's what we're giving away. So thank you to Endless, who are doing great work, but also thank you for giving us this. And they also gave us the Mission 1, which was given away at Bad Voltage Live as well.
Yeah.
So that's our prize today.
Yeah, it is a pretty cool looking device. I will say I would like one myself.
It's got this really cool like wood kind of like wooden box. It's a really beautifully designed.
I love the fact that it's got that kind of wood look to it, because it sort of suggests the whole idea of sustainability and things like that without necessarily actually embodying it necessarally. Yeah, but it does kind of imply that sort of vibe.
Sustainability without it just being a Raspberry Pi in a brown paper bag.
Exactly. And you two are all like, oh, it looks really nice. I wish I could have one. It's been sat here on my desk and I want to open it and use it and I'm not allowed. Now.
Yeah, so when you get it, it may have, goat pornography.
No, I have not opened it. It's just here on my desk.
Ignore the pie crumbs on the inside of the box. It definitely has not been opened.
Shut up, both of you. Now, importantly, there is a restriction on this competition. It's only open to people in Europe, basically. The UK, the EU, Europe in general. Because the previous competition we did was only the US and Canada, and we promised that we'd do one for Europe. We will also be doing another one for places outside both, but this one is only open to people in Europe. So,
is it Europe or the EU, or are Brexiteers allowed?
I'm intentionally hand waving a bit here for exactly what the definition is, right? But if
region, if you're basically in that land mass that surrounds England, then you're all.
And just to clarify, we've now had a US competition, a Europe competition. We'll do a non-US, non-Europe competition next for those listeners who are outside both of those areas.
Yes,
but you
absolutely.
won't. But it's probably, just so you know as well, don't get your hopes up, because it's probably going to be a digital prize because of just shipping costs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, carry on. So how are we going to give this beautiful wooden box of goodness away?
Well, we've been talking about assistants quite a lot on this show, digital assistants, as you will have heard if you've got this far. And one of the things that Jeremy said was, asked me, have I written any skills? This is what Amazon Alexa calls third-party programs, things that you can write to go into it. And I said, yes, I've written a couple. Google Home, I believe, lets you write your own plugins, extensions, skills, whatever you want to call them, right?
Not in the exact same way as Amazon. Their ecosystem isn't quite as open yet, but yes.
Right. But imagine that you could. Imagine you could write plugins, things for all these. What we're interested in knowing
or for Mycroft. Mycroft you can write.
Or for Mycroft, absolutely. What we're interested in knowing is what you think the best skill to write would be. The thing that you'd want to have on one of these home assistants that would let you talk to it in a way you expect, interact with the things that you want to. What should that thing be?
Yes. Now,
go on.
Yeah. I was going to say, that can be something very meaningful, such as the stock market prices or, the news from a particular region of the world. Or it could be, for example, something really ridiculous, which is how many pies are in Stuart Langridge's fridge.
Yes. You could either try and inspire us or you can try and make us laugh, and we're happy with either of these two things.
Yes. Yeah, you'll probably get a sense of what we appreciate the most. So,
yeah, I was going to say, writing an app that just says 42 pies in his fridge, not that useful. Although, potentially funny.
On the other hand, my submission is going to be the Jono Bacon skill, where you can ask it any question you like, and whatever you say, it just responds with community. So
there is actually an app for that.
there is literally an app for that. Well done, Roger Light, hero to the millions for writing Bay Community. But yeah, so that kind of thing. Do something which is funny. Do something which is really, really useful and inspires us to do it. You do not have to write this, to be clear, right? Yes. We're not looking for developers here. We're just looking for the idea. You don't even have to be prepared to write it. Just try and amuse us or try and inspire us.
Yeah, you don't have to write it. You just have to suggest it. It's just an idea for a functionality that these things will do. And also, to be very, very clear, we Endless are in no way advocating any of what you suggest or what we pick, and they are in no way integrating it into their products and services. Well, I don't want to have an awkward conversation in a couple of weeks with them. So
where should our good listeners submit these ideas?
Yes, Langridge, what do you think? I mean, you're about to make this, so where do you want to put it?
What you need to do is, the easy thing to do is to send them to us by email. So you can enter as many times as you like. So send us an email or multiple emails with your suggestions. What?
I know we should have figured this out earlier, right? But I think we should actually do a Google form, because then we can gather people's address and everything. People are going to forget to put that in emails. People are stupid, particularly our listeners. So
no. You don't have to do that. We will contact. You need to give us some way to contact you, and then we will contact you if you win. You don't all have to send your addresses in, right? We're not doing a Google form because I have to link to it from the show notes. Just send us an email to show@lugradio.org. show@badvoltage.org.
Definitely don't send an email there.
Send us to be honest with you, if you do send it to show@lugradio.org, then we'll get it. But send us an email to show@badvoltage.org. I can't believe I just made that mistake. That's terrible. Edit that out or something.
Nope, staying in.
You do realize it's closing in on 4 years that we've been doing this show, right?
I know. God, that's terrible, isn't it? Goodness gracious me. Right, send us an email to show@badvoltage.org with your suggestions for skills. I will also mention mention this in the show notes, but yeah, send us.
And when do they have to do this by
anyway
to be eligible to win?
We really should have talked about this.
I think
this is why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, send it to us at some point in the week or two after. We'd like to announce the winner in the next show. Shut up.
So how about we go ahead and have a date? So
okay.
Why don't we say you have to submit it by the 26th of June?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
that's
we
good
will
call.
Announce the winner on the show, released on
the 28th.
26th of June. Write that down, Langridge.
No.
Sorry, do you not have a text editor on your
shut
device
up,
Google.
No, it has
Competition
to be.
ends June 26th.
You have to get your answers in, please, by the 25th of June. Tuesday, the 25th of June, which is when we'll be recording the next one.
I don't know what month you're looking at, but it's not June, or you're not looking at 2017.
So let's stick with the 26th is Monday.
Which is Monday.
What the hell month am I looking at then? It doesn't actually say the month on the calendar. That's weird.
Which calendar are you looking at?
Google Calendar.
No, the year's on there.
No.
Twice.
You're insane.
Hey,
you're absolutely insane.
So anyways, June 26th.
That's July. My apologies.
Yeah, June 26th of 2017 is when it will. You need to get your submissions in by.
Were you reading that in links, Ak?
I was, in fact. No. Yes, okay, so we're going for the 26th, yes?
Yes. End of
June
day.
the 26th.
So that when we record on the 27th, we will be able to.
Yes. So get your so my apologies. Get your answers in by June the 26th to show@badvoltage.org with your suggestions for what you think a good skill for Alexa or for Cortana or for Siri or whatever.
Cortana, come on. Okay.
This is a nice window into the organizational skills of the Bad Voltage channel, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
Isn't it just? Goodness.
Okay, Google. What else is on the agenda here?
Well, if what you'd like to hear is more of me being horrifically disorganised, and you are in London or can get there, now I believe all the tickets are technically sold out, but I think if you wanted to just show up, you'd probably be okay. I am appearing as part of FOSS Talk Live in 2017, June the 24th. It's between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. at the Harrison pub, which is near King's Cross in London. If you go to fosstalk.com, you can find out more about it. Now, importantly, one of the things we're doing as part of the final closing live show is you've got me, Joe Ressington, Marius Quabeck, and David Megins-Nichols, and we're taking questions from the audience, and you can submit questions yourself if you want to. So if you go to fosstalk.com/questions, that gives you a chance to fill in. Now, we've got a bunch of questions already, but we'd like more, and then we'll be choosing close to the time which ones we want to answer. So if you've got questions that you'd like me to answer, or questions that you'd like any of the others to answer, then go to fosstalk.com/questions and fill them in.
And let's not forget, people, for those of you who remember Stuart's little ad for this last year that he was obviously at, this year as well, we see the return of Dave Megaslippers.
We do. Dave Megins-Nichols is on the stage with me. Hooray.
Langridge, actually, you need to remind me to bring that ghost note, because he gives me shit about that constantly.
Well, because you promised it to him 2 years ago.
I brought it over and then you didn't remind me, so therefore it's really your fault if you think about it.
I see.
Not that anyone is in any way interested in what we're talking about right now. But go to FOSS Talk Live. I would love to go and hang out with you guys there. I bet that's a lot of fun.
It will actually be a really good laugh. I think you've got the Linux Voice people are there, Ubuntu podcasts are there, Late Night Linux are there, and then the show at the end. Yeah, so it's kind of all the UK Linux podcasters all in one place for a live show. It's over the course of the whole evening. That's why it's 5 hours long.
I am bummed to not be attending.
Yeah.
Is there? Do you guys video it?
We didn't last year, and I don't think we are this year because video's hassle. I believe it's being audio recorded, but I don't think it's being videoed. So there should be audio recordings. I would say yes. So yes, you should come along. I mean, as I say, technically all the tickets have gone, but you'd probably be okay if you showed up. And worst case, what happens is you can't get into the actual, room where the thing's going on, but then you and the other people who couldn't get in can sit in the pub, talk about Linux, right? Which is what you were going to do anyway. So, should be quite a laugh.
All right. Good stuff. Do we have anything else that we need to, talk about?
I don't have any other news.
We do.
No.
I don't think I do either. Everything's tickety-boo. I got this mole on my leg, but...
No, don't care.
I don't really.
Okay, Google, shut up about that.
All right, well, I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good to have you with us, and we will see you on the next show.
Alexa, go to community.badvoltage.org.
Negative.